Ronald Read grew up on a farm. His family was so poor that Ronald had to walk or hitchhike to school. It was about an hour walking, twice a day. But Ronald worked hard enough at school that he became the first person in his family to get a high school diploma. After high school, he enlisted in the US Army during World War II. After the war, he came back to Vermont, and for over 40 years, he worked as a gas attendant, janitor, and a mechanic. What do you think his net worth was by the time he died? It was just short of $8 million US. Read is far from the only person that amassed a substantial amount of wealth on a very modest salary. For example, Geoffrey Holt worked his entire life as a groundskeeper, miller, and a factory worker, and he amassed a net worth over $4 million. So how did they do it? There's actually a tried and true formula from personal finance that explains exactly how anyone can become a millionaire on a modest salary. There are 3 steps you have to take in life to become wealthy. Rule number 1. You need to track all your expenses and your after-tax income. I specifically say after-tax income because many people live above their means for most of the year, only to get hit at the end of the year with a huge tax bill that they didn't see coming. You should also meticulously track your expenses. Many people spend ludicrous amounts of money on absolutely trivial matters and they just don't realize it. I know someone who consumes 4 Red Bulls a day and he buys them in single cans for about $1.50 each. That means he spends over $500 a month on Red Bull. If he would switch to coffee, caffeine pills, or generic energy drinks, he could save almost $500 a month. I remember one time I was in the supermarket and my friend bought toilet paper. He just bought the first type he could see. Turns out that was a $30 pack of toilet paper. It was the premium eco stuff, and he had no idea. He thought he was buying it for $5 or something. Many people these days also have many monthly subscriptions going that they don't use anymore, which can accumulate to a substantial amount each month. When you know your yearly after-tax income, and ideally also your hourly after-tax wage, and you know what all your expenses are, you can make up a budget. And that brings us to rule number 2 to become wealthy. You should save money. You need to live below your means. Even if you're on a modest salary, that is usually possible if you meticulously eliminate all the expenses that you don't really need. If you remember Geoffrey Holt from the introduction, he didn't buy a car, he used his lawnmower to get around town. You may not want to be that extreme with your frugality, but there are many things that people spend a lot of money on that really doesn't make them much happier, and it costs a substantial amount of money. I highly recommend that you consider how much of the year you are working for your car, your house, and your wedding. Those are enormous expenses for a lot of people that you can easily cut back on without materially impacting your quality of life. Holidays are another area in which many people splurge and essentially turn off their mind when it comes to expenses. If you make $3,000 a month after tax and you spend $5,000 on a holiday, you spent almost 2 months working for that one holiday. Was that really worth it? If so, great. If not, that is something you can cut back on. It's not unusual for people that give a huge wedding party to spend 2 years working for that wedding. Similarly, many people work more than half the year to afford the rent or their house. That means you should seriously consider if that's worth it or if that's something you can save money on. As long as you are not saving money, you are essentially financially treading water. You need to start saving to build wealth. If you're not saving money, your future is going to look very much like your present. But just saving money is also not enough to become wealthy. You need to make those savings work for you, which is rule number 3 to become wealthy. You need to invest your savings. Now, you don't have to be an amazing stock picker like Warren Buffett, but you should invest your money into something other than cash. In investing circles, a famous saying is cash is trash. Cash loses real value over time because of inflation. You need to invest in at least something like treasuries or government bonds or other type of investment-grade bonds that have a very high safety and still offer above inflation returns. Only when your returns exceed inflation do you build real wealth over time. And historically, the best ways to accumulate real wealth are the stock market and real estate. For many people these days, one of the easiest ways to passively accumulate wealth is to invest in something like a global index fund that relatively safely, at least over long horizons, should compound well above inflation. And as you accumulate more wealth, you should absolutely educate yourself about investing because it makes a huge difference in your life. Here's just how much this matters if you take the advice from this video. Let's say at age 22, you start saving $100 a month, and every year your salary increases by 5%. For many people, these are very reasonable assumptions. These savings you invest with an annual return of 10%, which is historically the average of the US stock market. If you do this, and these are very reasonable and realistic assumptions for many people, you'll have $1.3 million by age 65. The vast majority of this wealth comes from the magic of compounding. Time is really the essence. Starting to save when you're young is crucial. In this scenario, you only put in $172,000 of your own money, but it turns into $1.3 million because of the effect of compounding and religiously and systematically saving over time. And this is exactly how Ronald Read and Geoffrey Holt made their fortunes. They started very early, saving money and investing that money in the stock market. Over time, as they lived very frugal lives and they kept saving and investing that money, they amassed massive fortunes even on very modest salaries. And you can do the same. This is the tried and true personal finance formula that almost anyone can follow. No get-rich-quick nonsense, just hard work, being consistent, being patient, saving your money, and investing it reasonably over time. That's it. It's not difficult, and there's no magic involved, you just have to do it. If you like this type of evidence-based advice on how to optimize your life, I'd be honored if you like and subscribe. And if you're interested in the details of how I personally invest my wealth, check the link in the description for my personal development and investing course.